The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. It's Tuesday, so I'm joined by Gordon, the ghost of bass Patrick Henry. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
I am living my best life. I still have not gotten the intro music down packed. I'm almost there. I got to start it a little bit earlier than I did. I started at the American flag on the main Badlands intro, so I'm almost there. This new intro has me all jacked up. Maybe I'll play with it after the show today so I get it perfect, because I'm a stickler for that kind of thing. But here we go. Geopolitics Tuesday with Ghost.
Yeah, well, let's talk about local stuff first. Today, there's a special election in Virginia to redistrict the maps, as I'm sure y'all are aware. So I went to go vote this morning after I dropped my kids off at preschool, because the place is like right next to their preschool. And my neighbor runs the voting poll, like the polling place. So he's sitting behind the tables. And as I walk up to get my ballot and get my ID checked, because we've always done voter ID in Virginia as long as I've been voting, I'm saying hello to him, and then I'm handing my ID to the person, and the person taking my ID goes to base Patrick Henry. And I was like, oh, and then I realized I knew the guy. I've gone to lunch with him before. He's a Badlander though, and he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm here just to surveil, just to make sure there's no one messes around." So the point is that we at Badlands have people everywhere, and it's just important that the other side know that.
Heck yeah, man! That's the kind of stuff I love to hear. Badlandia spreading throughout the United States, man, all over the place. Yeah, we definitely have some stories on that election today, or that is it a referendum or is it an amendment to re-gerrymander or redistrict?
It is a constitutional amendment, and the way it's even worded on the ballot is ridiculous. It's like, do you approve a constitutional amendment to temporarily redistrict, right? To temporarily, in order to restore fairness to Congress, I guess.
Does it really say in order to restore
yeah.
fairness?
We should pull up the exact language of what it says.
Pull that up while I'm doing the ad read.
Yeah,
Pull up the exact language, because if it says to add fairness,
yeah, it's ridiculous. When I read it, I was like, this is even more like ridiculous than I thought it was in principle. I'm sure it'll probably pass just because elections are fake and gay, but and this is like just a raw power grab. I mean, Abigail Spanberger I expected her to be more moderate, just because I thought they were queuing her up for the White House, but it seems like she's like scorched earth. Like, we're going to do scorched earth, draconian tyranny in Virginia. So,
wow. Oh man, that is absolutely crazy right there. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit here, because all shows are why we vote now. And so yeah, we'll get to that. But before we do all that, let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors for today, guys. This episode is brought to you by Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil, omega-3s plus astaxanthin for hearts, joints, and memory. I've been reading a large study that found adults 60 to 73 who regularly supplemented with specific omega-3 had a significantly lower risk of developing memory problems. It wasn't fish oil, it was Antarctic krill oil, which crosses into the brain more efficiently. Native Path makes the cleanest version. If you've been taking fish oil for the heart, joints, or memory support, here's something you need to know. Research shows that fish oil is 50% less absorbable than krill oil, because fish oil's omega-3s are in triglyceride form, while krill oil is in phospholipid form, which is the same format that your cell walls are made of. That means that krill oil gets into your cells immediately. In head-to-head studies, krill oil outperformed fish oil at improving cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and easing joint pain, often at lower doses. Native Path Antarctic krill oil is sourced from pristine Antarctic waters, probably freezing cold, contains powerful antioxidant astaxanthin, and comes in little tiny soft gels, so you got no fishy burps. Can 100% vouch for that. No fishy burps. Learn more and grab your Badlands special discount and free shipping today at getkrill.com/Badlands. Again, that's getkrill.com/Badlands.
Okay, so and yes, fishy burps. We don't like fishy burps here at Badlands. Share my screen. So I have the Virginia Department of Elections pulled up here. So the ballot question says, should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections while ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting after the 2030 census?
How the hell did nobody sue over the use of restore fairness? That is completely trying to sway the vote in a particular direction.
Yeah, I mean, like I haven't invested like any emotional capital into this, because I think Congress is about as useless as it possibly could be. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously like just naked communism, like naked tyranny, like out in the open. So
that is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
To restore fairness, that is going to completely sway that word alone. Fairness, right? We all want fairness. That is a desired outcome in anything we do. To put the word fairness, restore fairness. And you know what? Let's get into that segment first. Let me call an audible here, because I have a part.
CannCon's Jimmy's are rustled now.
I am fired up over that. I did not know that that's how it was written in there. Let me pull up this clip here. This is your former governor, Glenn Youngkin, talking about this initiative on Fox News. Let me pull this down here.
2016, when Eric Holder, right when he got out of the Obama administration, started the Democrat Redistricting Commission. And then in 2022 and again in 2024, they pressed to pick up seats in New York. But with all that said, it's about Virginia. And Virginia in 2020 held a constitutional referendum, amended our Constitution to have nonpartisan, independent redistricting. 2/3 of Virginians said we want politics out, politicians out. And now we have Abigail Spanberger saying she's going to ignore the voice of Virginians, override them, and try to adopt the most gerrymandered map in America. Today we have what is assessed as the fairest map in America. I don't love it. It's 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, but it's fair. And she wants to override it and turn it into the most gerrymandered map in America. It's wrong. Virginians should stand up and vote no tomorrow.
Do you think that Republicans, or even, I understand that there are some Democrats who don't like this either, is there a chance that this might not happen?
There is a chance, and that's because it is viewed as being such a gerrymandered grab of power, and they've lied to us. I mean, even the Washington Post came out and said that this is the most brazenly dishonest campaign from the yes vote, and they effectively endorsed the no vote, the Washington Post. And Virginians understand this. And so what we're seeing is not only Republicans coming together, but independents and a lot of Democrats. So this is going to be close. Listen, it's an uphill battle because they have poured $70 million into this. That's more than they spent on the governor's race in a very short period of time to try to fool, deceive, and trick Virginians. But the reality is a no vote is for the fairest maps in America.
As I understand it, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, has put in about $20 million of his own campaign cash to help here. And just a quick glance this morning.
Okay, so there's Youngkin talking about the money that's been inserted into this, you know that kind of stuff. Again, let's just unpack this here for a second. So let me pull your clip back up here, or your zoom it. Can you zoom in on that ballot question so we can read that?
Yeah, hold up.
Control and yeah, there you go. All right. So the ballot question, as it's written in Virginia: should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections while ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting? Now, let me show you the map. Let me pull this down for a second here. And this and Youngkin had the map up there for a second, but here's another map that you can see. This is well, hold on. This is the way that they want the map to appear now. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you guys have what, 10 electoral votes, 11 electoral votes,
13. And yeah, it's 13 because it's 11 districts and then the 2 Senate seats. So
well, yeah, well, but I mean,
or at least it used to be 13. It may have changed because we did redraw the maps a few years ago. But yeah, at 13 traditionally.
Okay, so I phrased that wrong. You're correct. 13 electoral votes, 11 congressional districts. I should have phrased that better. So you have 11 congressional districts. The way the map is going to be redistricted, it will essentially leave 1 Republican district, 1 conservative district. Now, that would mean that your representation is going to be 10 to 1, 10 Dems, 1 Republican. Okay. And again, take out the whole Republican versus Democrat. I think that's the most retarded thing you'll ever hear. But for all intents and purposes, that's what we're dealing with, right? Your election results for the 2024 election, the most recent election in fake and gay elections, had Kamala Harris winning Virginia 51.8 to 46%. That is about as close to 50-50, as you can get, right? Given there's other candidates in there. Jill Stein and write-ins took 1.3% of the vote. Okay, so whatever. It's pretty close to being 50-50 balanced. So you want to go from 50-50 balanced, which Youngkin says during that clip, you're 6-5 right now, which is indicative of how your state allegedly votes, right? And they want to restore fairness. And how do you restore fairness? You make it 10 to 1. Now, if Kamala Harris won the electoral vote or won the popular vote in Virginia, 90% to 10%, go for it. It's all yours. Clearly, Virginia is the strongest blue state. DC is probably stronger. This is absolutely absurd that they put in there restore fairness, because that is going to flat out sway voters when they go and read that initiative, because they're going to see those 2 words, restoring fairness. And most voters are not going to be educated enough. Well, okay, not most. A lot of voters are not going to be as educated as you and I are, as Badlanders are, people that listen to the media, well enough that they're listening to a show like this. and they're going to see that restore fairness, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, everybody wants fairness.
Yeah. It's like, it's
ridiculous.
About as low IQ as you can, which is why, I think the idea of like promoting that everybody should get out and vote, I think is stupid. It's like, if you're not invested in like in the political process in your normal routine, then you shouldn't be invested on election day. Like that's your choice. We're all Americans. You have the freedom to choose. And if you're not invested in like the political process, then you shouldn't come out and cast a vote like out of ignorance. I mean, that's retarded. Share my screen. I'll just like show you what they're doing here. So this is the map as it currently stands. They redrew the map because District 7 actually used to be down here west of Richmond. And District 7, you'll remember Dave Bratt defeated Eric Cantor like 10 years ago, something like that, 10, 12 years ago. That was a historic moment because it was the first time that the incumbent Speaker of the House had ever been defeated in a primary. Dave Bratt defeated Eric Cantor in the Republican primary, and then he went on to become the Republican congressman. And Cantor had been in Congress for like 20 years at that point. And then Dave Bratt, of course, was unseated by Abigail Spanberger in 2018, CIA soccer mom. And then Spanberger was she was supposed to lose to Nick Freitas. Nick Freitas should have beat her in 2020, but then they found the thumb drive with 15,000 votes at 2 in the morning in a drawer that all the votes were for Abigail Spanberger, and Freitas just rolled over and showed his belly and like didn't challenge it, didn't sue, didn't raise a question. He just said, "Oh, I concede." So look at what they're going to do with the map here. Like, look at Lynchburg. So like Lynchburg, Roanoke, Charlottesville, Richmond, those are obviously like, urban, like blue areas. All those places have, colleges, universities that are going to, skew blue. So they're going to redraw it to make like one district of Charlottesville, Lynchburg, and Roanoke. They're going to make Fredericksburg touch Alexandria. I mean, this is just like blatant communism, right?
I'm looking at the peninsula that they create with District 9 by running that all the way up the left part of the state and having that one blue streak going through the middle. Did it go all the way to the left?
Let me see.
Or like the middle left?
The middle left.
Middle left.
Like
no, the other side. District 9.
Oh, you mean like Tennessee?
Go over to there and watch what they do to that district right there. Zoom out a little bit. You got to, now watch. Look at that. They're just like, let me take all of the conservative part of the blue district up there, and let's just make a peninsula. This is like what they did in Illinois, where they literally have one little streak connecting the left side and the right side of the state to make a blue district.
Yeah. So my guess is that they're just punting on District 9 is probably the one that they're saying will be like red, because they're just going to punt on that because that's all Appalachia and like rural. And so they're probably just punting on that. They're like, yeah, that'll just be red, but we'll just put all of the rural areas and Appalachia and everything in that district. I mean, it's so perverse, man. These people are such communists. And the GOP, I think the GOP is weak and feckless, and it's a uniparty, but they're going to put up like a little bit of a fight here, right? But they're going to roll over and show their belly when this thing was probably going to pass. Let's just be honest. And I'll be honest, the polls today looked like it looked on in 24, like when Trump was on the ballot. Like there was a long line. When I went out and voted last year for governor, it was like I walked right in, there's nobody voting. But today there was like a line going out the door.
Do you know what the requirement to pass an amendment is? It 50% or is it 60%?
Let me see.
In Virginia. And look that up real quick. And while you're looking that up, again, first and foremost, you don't temporarily amend the Constitution, right? Or amend the Constitution to allow temporary action. That's supposed to be, relatively permanent, right? It's not supposed to be an easy thing to amend the Constitution. That's why, our Constitution doesn't have that many amendments. Now I know, like, if Ash is watching, I just texted Ash and I was like, you got to watch this. But I just texted Ash. I know she says that they amend Colorado's Constitution all the time, right? Florida, it's very difficult. We've been trying to get marijuana, recreational in Florida for years now. And the amendment, we never get to that threshold, right? We never reach that 60. I think it's 60% threshold in Florida. We always poll at like 80%, but we never seem to get those stoners. They never turn out. Please. So stupid. But to the point here, Ghost, and you made the point a second ago, where the fuck were the Republicans on that verbiage in that amendment? Like that should have been lawsuits left and right. You can't say to restore fairness. You just can't do that. That is swaying a jury. Dude, I got to ban this guy. You can't come in and spam my chat with a link and then all these emojis. Get out of here with that. Yeah, go ahead, Ghost.
Yeah, so I found that it's a simple majority to pass a state constitutional amendment in Virginia via referendum. A simple majority of voters, which is 51%, must approve the measure, or 50% plus one. The amendment must first be approved by a simple majority in both chambers of the Virginia General Assembly during 2 successive legislative sessions, with a general election occurring between them. So basically, what they're saying is this has to pass 2 rounds in the Virginia General Assembly over the course of 2 different sessions, meaning that there's going to be an election. So the possibility of like a new party coming in, or like a new party taking control of the assembly before it goes to referendum. So to your point, that's just more indicative. The Republicans, like, where were the Republicans through this whole thing? Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found, because they're communists too. Unfortunately, they're absolutely communists in Virginia. The Republican Party.
They're all the same, man. All right, so let's play this clip here. This is Tim Kaine talking about it.
Listen, let's talk about the last vote there in Virginia, the presidential vote. Vice President Kamala Harris won by about 5 percentage points. So the state is relatively split with a left lean, but 90% of House members from Virginia being from one party?
90% of Virginians are not Democrats. That's true.
Correct.
But about 100% of Virginians want election results to be respected. We're deeply worried that Donald Trump will try to interfere with the election results this November or in 2028, because we saw him do it before. And we have to have a Congress that will stand up to it. In 2021, all 5 Republicans in Virginia went along with Donald Trump in his effort to overturn election results. And so we're giving Virginians a chance to vote, which Republican states have not done, about whether they want to have a congressional delegation that will stand up against Donald Trump's team.
So there it is. And that's stand up against Donald Trump. Well, it's a constitutional amendment. Yeah, but it's temporary, right? This is temporary redistricting. This is fear mongering people into believing that we need to get those extra 9 seats in our Congress with the Democrats so that we can stand up against President Trump. This is absolutely absurd. And, this is something we've seen, Ghost. We've talked about this with the California Prop 50, with Texas's redistricting, and several other states beginning to redistrict after Texas redistrict. Now, when Texas redistricted, they brought that state actually more in line with the bipartisan split in that state when you look at previous presidential records. What California did is the exact opposite. And I've gone over the numbers. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I mean, California is like, I think it was like 35 or 40% conservative. And now their representation in Congress with Prop 50 is down like in single digits. I want to say it's like 8 or 9%, whereas previously it was 17%, which is still not indicative of the 35% GOP turnout that they get in their totally legitimate elections. And so I was thinking about this morning, man. And like, what this really sounds like to me is, we talk about the national divorce. We've talked about that before. Like the idea of having blue states and red states and completely fracturing the union. And that's what they're literally doing right now. Yeah. They're literally
balkanization.
Well, not only that, we talked about the National Popular Vote Act last week because because Virginia Spanberger just signed you guys on to the National Popular Vote. Now
I was just show my screen. I was just going to show that from last week. She signed the National Popular Vote, which for those who don't know what this means, I sent it to Ash and I was like, what the hell is this? And Ash said, oh yeah, Colorado and a bunch of other states have already signed on to this. Once enough states sign on, what it will mean is that these states are pledging all their electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote. Like whichever presidential candidate wins the popular vote nationally will get all the electoral votes, like winner take all kind of thing.
And so here's the thing, like this is the national popular vote, but at the statewide level, that's basically the statewide popular vote. If the state votes in this election right here, in this, for this amendment, it's not, you're taking away the sovereignty of the individual congressional districts, right? You're taking away the sovereignty of District 9 by saying, hey, District 9, we're now going to break you up because we have the authority to do that. We're going to break you up and take away this equal fairness that we have in the state where it was 6-5, which based on election results is relatively fair. And we're now going to take this almost 50-50, let's call it 51-47 state, and we're going to make it 100, like 95-5 in terms of their representation. That's absolutely nuts. And we're going to do this by propagandizing people that don't know what they're actually voting for by putting words like, we're restoring fairness.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane.
And then like in that I guess it was it a Fox News report, that what's his name from New Jersey put in $20 million of his own money.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah. It's like Hakeem Jeffries put, like, that guy lives in New Jersey. Why the hell is he investing money in another state's election process?
Because he wants to be the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, that should be illegal. Like, that right there should be illegal. But you know, the whole system, it's turtles all the way down. The whole system is so corrupt. It's so untrustworthy. And when we say elections are fake and gay, this is what we talk about. Like, this is what we mean when we say that. The entire system from top to bottom is there's so much naked corruption. You can't trust any of it. You can't trust any of it. So I expect that despite the fact that the people, like, there's a line going out the door today, despite that, I still think that this thing will probably end up passing, and they'll be like, oh yeah, this thing passed. And then the Democrats will take the majority in Congress, and then we'll spend the next 2 years just fighting about more congressional bullshit. They use Congress, by the way, as a distraction. That's the shiny object. Steve Bannon says that the Middle East is a sideshow and Israel is a sideshow to a sideshow. I actually disagree. I actually think it's the other way around. Congress is a sideshow, all right? And this kind of stuff is a sideshow to a sideshow. They're distracting us with this bullshit when we should be looking at, like the stuff that Kash Patel and John Solomon have been talking about. Like, that is way more important than, the bickering in Congress. Now, this situation that's unfolding today is important because it is a blatant power grab. And it's just further evidence of, like, the stolen election apparatus, like the election stealing apparatus. But I mean, we have to be focused on, like, what the real issues are. And the biggest issue, I think, is the uniparty control over our entire country. And the fact that the uniparty, I think, is controlled by foreign influences. Like, I think a foreign cartel, like an international cartel, controls our uniparty, and then the uniparty controls us. So
there's absolutely, and we'll land this here because Asawavana, but that's not like actually a thing. We'll land this here. I've always speculated, and I've done, back in the day following 2020, I've had people that did deep dives into Virginia, specifically your mail-in ballot processing, and showing ballots that were processed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's not possible because nobody's working the elections during that time. And this was early voting, not election night. So it's not like they stayed over to get the results as quickly as possible. And, this very well could be, bolstering the narrative that Virginia is a blue state. Look, we've got 10 Democrats representative compared to 1 Republican representative. And, maybe that's what they're doing. They're getting out in front of this because we know that right now is the time for them to strike, because our elections have not been fixed in any way, shape, or form. Very minimal work has been done to solidify fairness and integrity in our elections. And so this is that last ditch effort from the CIA operative known as your governor in Virginia. And so maybe that's what's it. So maybe there's a little bit of hope in this whole thing right here, that the desperation is seeping through, that they're willing to do something as brazenly ridiculous as restoring fairness.
In 2018, I think the number is 42 career CIA agents ran for Congress. 42, I believe it's the number. I don't remember how many won. I'm sure the majority of them won, if not all of them. How did that not become a central discussion point, like, in political discourse? The fact that the CIA has infiltrated Congress just out in the open, like, forget, backdoor deals. They were running as, I'm a CIA agent. That's why you should vote for me. Spanberger's biggest talking point is, I worked for the CIA defending this country for, 10 years. It's like, what? Like, whatever happened to the separation of powers? We have a network of spies that are now like working openly in Congress, and one of them's become the governor, and they're queuing her up for the White House. I mean, this is again, like, we just need to be focused on calling this bullshit out, and this is absolute bullshit. Just all of it, and the Republicans are in on it, in my opinion.
All right, so moving on from this, and we'll get back to Asawavana a little bit later on in the show. NBC News, Senator Mark Warner's daughter dies of juvenile diabetes and health issues at age 36. Madison Warner died following a, quote, decades-long battle with juvenile diabetes and other health issues. She was just 36 years old, so rest in peace. Don't wish ill on anybody, especially somebody as young as 36. And on that note, we will get into some other news here. Let's go ahead and hit these spammers are getting ridiculous. I got to ban these people. Oh, already been muted. All right, good job, moderators. Yeah, you see that link with all those green flashing lights and assume that's a bot and just go ahead and ban them. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about a sponsor here, perhaps, maybe. Trying to get this going, and there we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, they can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks do not protect you. They control you. And that's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not paper gold. It's not an IOU. It is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. All right. And let's jump into our next story here from Fox News. Newsom PAC, Gavin Newsom, they call him in the Trump sphere. Newsom PAC bought thousands of memoir copies about his hardships, juicing sales. It says Governor Gavin Newsom's PAC spent more than $1.5 million buying thousands of copies of his new memoir, accounting for about 2/3 of all of the copies sold nationwide, according to campaign finance filings. The PAC's spending helped propel the memoir to the New York Times bestseller list, raising new scrutiny as his national profile builds ahead of the possible 2028 presidential run. The Campaign for Democracy Committee launched a book campaign asking donors to contribute any amount to the PAC to receive the memoir when it was released on February 24th. The PAC bought about 67,000 copies, representing a substantial portion of the 97,400 total that were sold. A New York Times spokesperson explained that the outlet places a dagger symbol on the list to indicate when a book's ranking has been influenced by bulk purchases. Now, I want to point out this. I jumped over to Amazon, and I looked up his book, A Young Man in a Hurry, a memoir of discovery. And if you look at, let me zoom out a little bit right here. If you look at the very first line under the description, first it's got #1 bestseller in the United States. Okay. And then it says the #1 USA Today bestseller and instant New York Times bestseller. There's no dagger there, Ghost. There's no dagger there. There's no indication that both of those metrics were manipulated by a mass purchase of $1.5 million from his own political action committee to make it look like he's actually more popular than he is. So then I went to Westport Library, which is the closest thing I could find doing a search. Like I searched New York Times bestseller list, and I could not find the actual New York Times list that they put out to find this dagger that's supposed to indicate that, like anybody would even know what the dagger meant in the first place. And he's at the very bottom of the list here, which I thought was hilarious, of nonfiction. He's at the very, very bottom of the list here, right between Christina Applegate, You with the Sad Eyes, and You Better Believe I'm going to Talk About It, a book by a reality TV and soap opera star. So kudos to you, Gavin Newsom, for manipulating your own sales and still just barely beating Christina Applegate. That's good.
Yeah, just what a clown.
Yeah, like that. Look, so the way his system works, the way this works, and I'm sure there's other people that do this, but he buys the $1.5 million worth of books, 67,000 books. Then he goes out there and in order to justify this and say, well, we didn't buy him just to spike up the numbers. We bought him as a political, a gift to anybody that donates to his campaign. So now, and it's essentially money laundering. So now you take that PAC, which is now given Gavin Newsom $67,000 worth of books. They go out there and say, hey, if you donate any money to the PAC, no matter what the amount is, we're going to send you a book. So you can literally donate $1 to Gavin Newsom right now, and he'll send you a book. And by doing that, you're not only getting people to donate these low dollar amounts, but you're also putting that book at the top of the list, which you can then go out there and say, Gavin Newsom's a #1 New York Times bestseller to himself. Fucking retarded.
Yeah, well, it's important to understand that like the whole publishing industry, just like the film industry, I'm sure is like a giant intelligence operation. And the data point that I can point to specifically, but there's probably a lot of other examples, would be the official disclosure from MI6, and maybe it came from the CIA, but that MI6 gave Robert Maxwell all the money he needed to purchase the Pergamon Press in 1954, and start like a publishing house, which became a major publishing house, and then allowed him to expand that into other fields of publishing. And the point of it was so that he could go around and collect all the scientific papers that were being written in Germany and other parts of Europe. In Germany, of course, some of the greatest minds, some of the greatest engineers. But then specifically go to Russia, go to Soviet Union and offer to publish, because he had contacts in the Kremlin, and publish the Russian scientific papers, the white papers. And then that allowed MI6 to gain access to all of Russia's like scientific community. All of it is just corrupt. And what they do now is they give book deals to people as payoffs, whether it's a politician or a celebrity or whatever, someone just getting their 15 minutes of fame. They do what they need to do to advance a specific narrative agenda item, and they're given a book deal. They're given millions of dollars or whatever it is. And then, oh yeah, they sold 60,000 books, but all the books were purchased by, like universities, like university libraries, something like that. I mean, it's not like individuals going out and buying the book. It's like you said, these bulk purchases that then go sit in like they probably just get thrown in an incinerator, but they, go sit on like a discount bookstore shelf or like in a library, obscure library somewhere.
Do you remember when Donald Trump Jr. Oh, hold on. Why is it playing? Sorry about that. Do you remember when Donald Trump Jr. Wrote a book, and like, I think he spent like $100,000 or something like that to buy copies to give out to people at events and stuff like that. Like $100,000, what does that buy? Like 1,000 books, maybe 10,000 books. And you're doing
that cost. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. You're doing these speaking events and you're giving them out, to people and stuff like that. And he got railed for that. Like he got destroyed in the Mockingbird media for that. And so far, I think Fox News is just about the only outlet I've seen that's, given any flack for that. But to your point about the publishing house thing, and this is how money laundering, right? Book deals, art deals.
It's all money laundering.
Yeah.
Art, like fine art, selling like a painting of paint splashing the canvas, selling for like $400 million. That's money laundering.
Hunter Biden's finger paintings. So I looked up Newsom, and he wrote a children's book in 2019, and he received $125,000 advance from Penguin House for that book, a children's book. And the advance that he got from this book is not disclosed publicly, although I would imagine if he's going to run for president, that's going to have to be disclosed. I would hope that it has to be disclosed how much you received for your book deal. But given the hype of him running for president, and this being his memoir, I can't imagine that it's less than that 125. In fact, I would probably add a zero to the back end of that and say it's, 1.25 million, something closer to that. if I had to guess. But yeah, that's nuts, man. So, all right, let's move on. We got another story here. Well, this isn't really a story. This is kind of a list that we've sought. And the House Committee on Ethics has released a publicly disclosed investigation matters into alleged sexual conduct by members of Congress. Okay. Remember, we talked when the Swalwell files came out, right off the rip, I was like, hey guys, we need to focus on this because Nancy Mace, back last month, in March. Yeah, it's still last month. In March, tried to pass the resolution to disclose all of these investigations, the payouts and everything else into House members and what they're paying out and why they're paying it out. Well, it appears that they kind of heard us a little bit, and they released this list here. It involves 28 names in total, ranging from the most recent, Eric Swalwell in 2026, going all the way back to Wayne Hayes in 1976. Now, let's just run through this list real quick. So for like Swalwell, it says sexual misconduct, including with a staffer. Okay. And so Swalwell is the one, and Gonzalez are the two that are most fresh in our minds, right? Because they just happened. And let's read the description for Eric Swalwell. Sexual misconduct, including with a staffer. That's not what was alleged. Rape was alleged and has been alleged on at least 2 occasions now. Rape, not sexual misconduct, rape. Okay. Putting something in their drink, the woman saying no, and you persisting. All right. So it says the outcome, loss of jurisdiction. Then it goes to, Corey Mills, same thing, sexual misconduct and or dating violence. Tony Gonzalez, sexual relationship with a staffer that resulted in her suicide. Alleged suicide. Then it gets down to Matt Gaetz. And I thought this one was really interesting because it says sexual misconduct with a minor, solicitation of prostitution, the outcome, public report finding sexual misconduct violations. Yet he's never been criminally charged. And the Matt Gaetz one is interesting because I think you and I have talked about this, and there's a lot of really concerning things with the Matt Gaetz case, including ties to Israel, just FYI. But the allegation against Matt Gaetz of soliciting sex from a minor, first and foremost, he was not married at the time that this took place. Second, the minor had not just a fake ID showing that she was overage, that she was, legal, but her ID was a real, authentic, verifiable, will scan and everything, Florida ID, because Joel Greenberg, who was the Seminole County tax collector at the time, created the fake ID for her, and allegedly in an attempt to entrap Matt Gaetz by portraying this woman as an adult over the age of 18 and having consensual sex with Matt Gaetz. That was not what actually happened. And so, again, we can go down the list, but how do you defend against something like that, right? Like if inside joke, well, it's not an inside joke, but between my wife and I, when we met, she was 20 and I was 23 or 23. And like jokingly, I asked her for her ID and I was like, how do I know this isn't fake? I said that to her and it was totally kidding around, but that's the same. Like imagine if that was fake, right? And she is actually under 18. Like, how do you defend against that?
Yeah. That's a very good point.
So going down the list a little bit more, I thought this was really interesting. Like when you look at this list, George Santos, Madison Cawthorn, improper relationship with a staffer, public report with no sexual misconduct violations. So why is it on there? Madison Cawthorn's also, well known that he's in a wheelchair. So I don't even know if, everything is, I'm not going to assume whatever. Michael San Nicolas. So what I thought was interesting about this list, Ghost, is it's like right around 2017. So right around 2017, when Trump gets into office, there's been 15 sexual misconduct claims on the record with Congress since Trump took office. The remaining 12 names on here range from 2014 to 1976. So that's what, a 38-year period. So in a 38-year period, there were 12 sexual misconduct claims, but then since Trump took office 9 years ago, there's been 15. So is Congress just getting that much more degenerate that it's like double in a third of the time? You know, does that make sense? Like, you get
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
well, I remember during the first Trump administration, learning about the slush fund. There was like a $15 million slush fund, I think, if it was a number, if I recall, of money they would just it was just set aside to give to staffers as for like settlements, like because when they would accuse their congressman, the person they worked for, of like raping them, basically, they would be like, okay, like here's your hush money, go away. And that money was coming out of Congress. Like, it wasn't coming out of like the pocket of the congressman. It was like Congress paying for, its members to rape their staffers and then get away with it. Yeah. And like, as soon as I learned that, that's basically when I was like, okay, Congress is useless and a sideshow and a complete joke. And we should stop taking it seriously. And that was almost 10 years ago, I want to say at this point. It had to be 2018 that came out, 2017, something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's turtles all the way down, like I said.
Yeah. And I saw somebody in the chat. You think this list is going to satisfy us? And you're spot on. This list is not going to satisfy us because we know, again, Swalwell is fresh in our minds, and we know what Swalwell is alleged to have done. And when it says here the allegations relating to sexual misconduct, including with a staffer, that is not adequate. That does not describe what Eric Swalwell is alleged to have done. Now, if you're going to put allegation, sure. If you want to put convictions, then fine. I'm with this. Sexual misconduct allegations including with a staffer. But that's not sexual misconduct. That is rape. That is a forcible felony that I think should be punishable by death. Especially if it's a habitual thing where you're doing it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times.
Yeah, or castration. Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't dismiss that out of hand. It certainly should be criminally prosecuted.
Okay, maybe castration's a little bit more fair. Castration's probably more
fair. Yeah.
If it's a child, kill him.
Oh yes,
I think everybody would agree.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that for sure.
All right. So let's jump into this story right here. I don't know. Well, you know what? Let me put this story off for just a minute because I think this will tie in good to that story we have from the woman in Miami at FIU. We'll talk about that here in a second. From Politico reporting that construction on Trump's White House ballroom can continue for now. U.S. Appeals Court says. It says the federal appeals court is allowing President Donald Trump to continue building a $400 million ballroom at the White House, ruling a day after a lower court judge continued to block the above ground construction. The 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia put on temporary hold the order by U.S. District Judge Richard Leon, halting part of the project. The panel schedules a hearing for June 5th to review the case. So at least that the appellate court, now granted, that's not a full ruling on it, but it seems like I think it was whatever the organization that approves plans for building federal buildings in DC, they approved it. And so I think that's what the appellate court was using as, kind of their justification for allowing this to continue until they can determine whether or not Trump has to get permission to Congress to use private funds to do an approved project at the White House by the White House or the Washington, D.C. Building Commission, I think it's called. Again, just an absurd ruling. I think June 5th, the court's going to smack this down. And one of these days, perhaps we'll start getting accountability for these rogue judges that are just, because it's Trump, we got to rule against him. That kind of shit.
Yeah.
Let's see where we're going to go next from here. Cause I just threw the whole show kind of in a,
sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault, man.
Came in hot with election stuff.
You did. And you know that election stuff is what's going to get me fired up. So, let's jump into this. Speaking of court rulings, Kobeissi letter put this out, and I've verified it. Town Hall's report. Everybody's reporting this now. Breaking: the U.S. government has begun refunding up to $166 billion in tariffs charged under President Trump after the Supreme Court ruled the policy unlawful. Beginning today, businesses can file claims through a new customs system. Over 330,000 importers across 53 million shipments are expected to be eligible. Once approved, refunds plus interest will be paid within 60 to 90 days. Now, Ghost, I am old enough to remember when President Trump was proposing these tariffs and the mainstream Mockingbird media and all the talking head pundits out there were telling us this is a tax against the American people. President Trump is levying a unilateral tax against the American people, and this is going to look bad on the American people, and it's a tax, and you guys should be outraged by this. Okay, so why is the money not going to us?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And the money's not going to you because it's a tax on the corporations, which are the thing that own all these people on television. These people are all bought and paid for. They're all slaves to their masters. Their masters are the corporatists. And these corporatists are the same people who gutted your economy and outsourced all your jobs to India and Southeast Asia. They sent the manufacturing there, then they sent the call centers, and they sent everything is just being. I saw last night a video of somebody checking into a hotel somewhere. I don't know where the hotel is, but the hotel, it was like an iPad that you walked up to and you hit check in, and then you were put into a FaceTime call with somebody in India who checked you into the hotel. So it's like that's the direction that these corporatists want to take everything, where people on one side of the world are performing jobs for people, services for people on the other side of the world in real time, right? Like call centers and checking into hotels and that sort of thing. And they do that, of course, because they can pay those people pennies on the dollar compared to what they can pay a living wage in the West. It's disgusting. It's absolutely subversive. It's treason, in my opinion. I think what these people have done is treason. If you put together the whole conspiracy, and that's what needs to be unwound. Like, that is where the focus should be. The focus should be on the banking system. The focus should be on the money that flows into our government, like the political class. The money that flows out of our government, where is that going? Where has that gone? That should be cut off. The fact that money is still flowing is a disgrace. But yeah, I mean, and the other half of this, the thing that I think is more important than a tax on the American people or whatever, is the fact that I think the tariff system, as President Trump has posited it, is really the off ramp from the income tax system, right? Where we can drop the income tax and maybe other forms of taxation as well, at least at the federal level, and just fund our government with tariffs. Because what our economy is an exclusive club. You have to view the economy as an exclusive club. And if you want to come into the fun party, you have to pay a door fee. You got to pay $10 at the door to get into the party. Like, that is, that's how the venue makes money on the party, right? The venue is the United States. You can think of it as the U.S. government is the representative there. And we make money to let people into the exclusive club. If you're already in the club, you can just operate freely, right? If I want to go start a business, I can go start a business, get the capital, get the proper the proper logistics in place, start your business. But if somebody overseas wants to come bring their cheap Chinese crap into our economy in our marketplaces, they got to pay a door fee. And that's what a tariff is. And if they want to compete with us, they got to get their retail price down where they can compete with us. Because if they got to pay that fee and they're going to, their costs are similar to our cost and they want to make a margin, then you're going to pay this much for their cheap crap and you're going to pay this much for the American made quality item. Guess where everyone's going to go buy their shit from? They're going to buy it from the local American business. They're not going to buy it from the corporatist who makes their shit in Southeast Asia. That's what this entire argument is about. And Fox News is complicit in it. The Republican Party is responsible for putting this whole system in place. They're the ones who brought in, Henry Kissinger. He's the one who brought China into the WTO and opened up their markets to Western investors. Like, they're the ones who set this whole thing up, the Republican Party. Yep. So everyone needs to stop worshiping the Republican Party, groveling at their feet, and acting like they're the thing that's going to save us. They are the thing that has enslaved you.
Yep. And they delegated, by the way, and we've talked about this many, many times. They've delegated all of this, not all of it, but most of this authority to the president. And even, in the Constitution, the president is given the authority and the power to levy sanctions and other means to restrict countries from being able to do business, but you can't. So you can go all the way to the extreme on this and say you can't do business with the United States, but you can't say you can do business with us, but it's going to cost you 10%. It's going to cost you 15%. And, like we've said many, many times here on Badlands, they've been eating our lunch on tariffs. if you look at the trade deficits that we have and the amount of tariffs that we are paying, there's a reason that we don't have American cars in Europe. And that's because they put a 10% VAT tariff on our cars. And then on top of that, they're putting a 30-40% tariff on U.S. imports of vehicles into the European Union. And so no American car maker wants to sell to the European Union. There's a couple that do. I think Ford has a presence over there. I think Chevy might, but not in any type of number in significance. Meanwhile, we've got Mercedes over here. We've got BMW over here. We've got Jaguar. We've got Land Rover and Range Rover. Aston Martin, we've got all the European brands over here, but nothing with America. And then the last thing, to your point here, one of the most incredible things, and this is again a testament to the against the Republican Party here, because they tend to be the most warmonger, at least openly. I think they all warmonger behind the scenes, but openly they're the most hawkish on going to war. President Trump has shown that these tariffs can be used as a bargaining chip. They can be used as a weapon. They can be used as a non-violent, non-life-threatening weapon that's not going to cost us anything compared to what the military-industrial complex spends, on a yearly basis. And you can literally go out there and say, hey, you better stop this fighting, or I'm going to put a 30% tariff on your country, or I'm going to put a 100% tariff on your country. So they don't want him to be able to do that, but you can send over American troops to go die for whatever country you're talking about. That, to me, is one of the greatest exposés we've seen from President Trump when he talks about being able to end these 8 wars. And granted, Americans weren't dying in these wars, but, in the India-Pakistan conflict, they were dying. In Ukraine-Russia, obviously dying. Israel-Gaza, same thing. A lot. What was the other one? Was it Cambodia? I can't remember off the top of my head, but these conflicts around the world, Trump is resolving them by using the power of the purse, by using the economy and access to the American system. And I'll take that over bombing the shit out of people and killing humans. I'll take that every single day of the week.
Yeah. And I think Cambodia, Thailand is the conflict you're thinking of. We should really view our economy is special. Like our economy, it's there's a lot of problems with it. There's a lot, like the market has been highly regulated, and they've obviously outsourced and offshored all of our manufacturing. We need to reverse all of that, and Trump has been working on doing that. But we need to view it as a natural resource. That's what our economy is. It is a natural resource at this point that is special to our country. Everybody wants access to, the same way everybody wants access to oil in the Persian Gulf, right? And so the people who control the oil in the Persian Gulf, they have the ability to basically be gatekeepers and say, hey, if you are not fair to us and you don't do what we want you to do in terms of cooperation, we're not going to give you this oil. Like we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. We're not going to let you in, right? Now there are other people who have oil, so you may be cutting off your nose to spite your face if you're doing that. But we have something special here. It's our natural resource. If you want access to it, you need to play ball with us. And if you're not going to play ball, then go fuck yourself.
Yep.
And the specific data points I can give you about how the Republicans have betrayed you throughout your life, people listening of a certain age. I mentioned Henry Kissinger, right? He was the Secretary of State under Nixon. This is the early 70s. He dispatched Klaus Schwab to create the World Economic Forum in 1971. He dispatched Zbigniew Brzezinski to create the Trilateral Commission in 1973. And then, of course, negotiated the petrodollar deal in 1974. Rides off into the sunset, resigns from the Nixon administration as soon as Watergate breaks in 74. And then goes and joins the Trilateral Commission and the World Economic Forum. And the rest is history. Spent the 70s then setting up, plundering the American economy and offshoring all this crap. The 80s then come along and Reagan comes in. And who was calling out Reagan and the Reagan administration for being one of the worst administrations of all time? Was Trump in 1987 when he wrote his book, The Art of the Deal. And he said Reagan's the most overrated person ever. And the only thing redeeming about him is his hair. That's it. And what he meant was, he would say this in interviews on Oprah. He would say, try to go sell a car in Japan. Just do it. Like, try to go sell a good car. You're not going to be able to do it because they're going to charge you 40% tariff. And meanwhile, Japan's now making all of our cars. They're making all the electronics. Everything back in the 90s was made in Japan, made in Taiwan, right? Like everything made in Hong Kong. Everything was like that. But you couldn't go sell in their markets. All right. That is how the Republican Party, the Reagan administration, the Nixon administration, all of them. I mean, shit, the Democrats are doing it too, but the Republicans are the ones at the tip of the spear, screwing you so that the corporatists, their buddies, could rape and plunder this country, which they've done. So we need to stop worshiping the Reagan administration as if it was some beautiful, awesome thing. It wasn't. It was actually, they were all CIA and Mossad. Like every one of that administration I've determined was CIA and Mossad. And many of them now are influencers who are now trying to steer geopolitical outcomes. Mark Levin, he was in the Reagan administration. That Indian guy that got arrested, what was his name? He was in the Reagan administration. I forget what his name is. It'll come back to me in a minute. Made the documentaries and, what used to be kind of like a beloved figure like 10 years ago, but he's a shill now. All these people.
Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah, D'Souza. That's it. D'Souza. He was in the Reagan administration. George Bush, like godfather of the deep state, godfather of the CIA, vice president, right? I mean, it's just such a joke, dude. Like this, we need to stop groveling at the feet of the Republican Party and call them out for what they are. They are a foreign infiltration operation into this country.
Speaking of the Republican Party, let's jump into this story here. I wrote this yesterday from the Gateway Pundit. 5 ActBlue employees plead the fifth on 146 questions during House Judiciary depositions. Every member of the legal compliance team was fired, quit, or took extended leave from the platform in 2025. This has been a story that we've been waiting to see come to fruition for years now. Ash and I have had Peter Berniger on Why We Vote numerous times. We've had Chris Gleason. We've had Draza Smith. All of the people. There's a Badlander. I'll just say Keith. If you're listening, Keith, hat tip to you, sir, who was intimately involved with this. I met him at Vegas and had a great conversation with him. He's actually, I seen him listed. I think I saw him listed in somewhere that I was just recently looking at it. It might've been in a Berninger post about this, but anyways, let's get to what's going on here. So there's 2 stories here actually with ActBlue that took place in the last day or so. Attorney General Ken Paxton in Texas has filed a lawsuit against ActBlue for deceiving. I actually have the exact quote here: deceiving Americans by lying about its donation process that allow fraudulent and foreign donations. This was following an internal investigation that, quote, proved that ActBlue continues to process gift card donations, end quote, without proving identification of the donor. Now, one of the main aspects of this claim right here, and this is, going back to Berniger, was that so what the claim is that ActBlue, U.S. taxpayer money goes overseas. So like when you see, let me pull this down. When you see these claims of like gender studies in Pakistan, right? $130 million for gender studies in Pakistan. A lot of that money gets sent over to Pakistan, and then a little bit gets shaved off and then sent back into the United States. And they buy essentially gift cards in bulk, put that money on the gift cards, and then utilize those gift cards to distribute that money to ActBlue. But to your point about the Republican Party and something that doesn't get much attention in the MAGA circles, WinRed does it too. And Ash and I talk about this nonstop. They do it significantly less than ActBlue. According to Berniger, it's about 85-15, 85% ActBlue, 15% WinRed, but that doesn't make it any better. That doesn't make it any better if it's more Democrats. Okay, so are we here to clean up corruption, or are we here just to clean up corruption that we don't agree with?
Are we here? Are we here to like beat the other team? Yeah. Are we here to clean up corruption? Corruption's acceptable as long as we come out on top. Like I actually heard that argument made on stage at GART.
Look at the NBA right now with the gambling expose that's taking place over in the NBA. Are we here to root for our team, or are we here to fix the league so that the real team, the honest team, the best team actually wins? Because I'll take the latter every single time. Now, I do believe that MAGA, the America First community, is the best team by far. But we got to level that playing field, and that is, my intention here. So getting back into the story here, the House GOP sat down with 5 former ActBlue employees to depose them. They invoked the Fifth Amendment, which, to be perfectly clear, that's fine to invoke the Fifth Amendment. Everybody has that right. And you can make a presumption one way or the other. That's your own personal presumption. You can't make a presumption about invoking the Fifth Amendment in a court of law or anything. So, there is no presumption to be made in a legal realm with this. But some of the questions included, is there any reason you are unable to provide truthful answers to today's questions? I invoke the Fifth. Have ActBlue executives ever instructed you to allow more fraud on the platform or weaken ActBlue's fraud prevention defenses? I plead the Fifth. Have you ever been part of a conspiracy to launder foreign money into fraudulent donations for campaigns using ActBlue? I plead the Fifth. Did members of ActBlue's legal and compliance team leave ActBlue after the 2024 election because of the platform's inability to prevent fraud during previous election cycles? I plead the Fifth. Moving down here, it talks about, so there was a New York Times article back in March of last year, not this past March, but March of last year. And in that article, they're talking about all these executives from ActBlue that have fled. I think it was 7 in total. And they mentioned at the time that there was one lawyer in the general counsel's office, legal and compliance at ActBlue. And that was a man by the name of, let me see where it is here. Ahmad is his last name, but I think his first name is Hain Ahmad. Bear with me. Sorry, guys. I did not have this highlighted because I wrote it and I can usually remember this stuff. Zain Ahmad. So Zain Ahmad was blocked out of his Slack in the company. He was blocked out of his email. His Slack messages were deleted, and he felt like he was being retaliated against for being a whistleblower. And me and Ash, had Peter Berniger on back then again and talked specifically about this story right here. And now we're finding out there were internal messages in ActBlue about Ahmad leaving and who would replace him. And they tried to bring in this guy, Aaron Ting, to replace him. And the guy's like, no, I don't want the job. And he quit. So everybody abandoned ship at ActBlue at the same time in legal and compliance. It's almost as if they saw this investigation coming down. It's almost as if they knew what was going to happen. So now, now that Congress is deposing these people and maybe we'll see some action on this, where's the DOJ on this? I'm hoping that the DOJ is involved in this. I'm hoping there's going to be accountability for this. And then I'm hoping, as always, like I said earlier, I'm hoping to go after WinRed too, because all of this, the money needs to be taken out of our elections, especially if it's U.S. taxpayer money being fraudulently laundered to campaigns. And we'll land that there. We'll talk a lot more about this on Why We Vote this week.
Nice.
Yes. All right. So let's jump over to this post I saw this morning, and I don't have much to say about it, but there's somebody lurking that might be able to say more. Weston Martinez put this out on X. Lubbock, Texas voting machines crashed. Officials yanked them and flipped to hand-marked paper ballots instantly. Check this out.
Hey guys, hope you're doing good. It's Weston Martinez coming here. Before I turn in for the night, I want to let you guys know we got breaking news coming out of Lubbock that we found out about a little while ago. I've been looking through it, and the election administrator and the county judge over there made the decision to get rid of the voting machines in several locations because they were having problems with the machines, and looks like they were having problems with the scanner and some other stuff. So we're trying to locate the official press release to put out for you, but we just want to tell you that hat tip to those people for making the decision to get rid of the machines. Go to the emergency protocol, which, by the way, should be the primary protocol, and that is to use the hand-marked paper ballots, not allow the machines to be in our elections so that they can't be manipulated. But I want to bring that information to you right now. Share this information. This is a breaking news story. We'll have more to come on this when everybody else wakes up, and you'll hear it here first. So,
all right, there we go. And I'm getting blasted in the chat for pronouncing it wrong, because first thing that popped in my head when I heard that was Lukenbach, Texas. The old, I think Kenny Chesney did a remix of that. Go to Lukenbach, Texas with Willie and Waylon and the boys. Anyways, that's what came to mind there. But I said this at GART. They're using a whole new system out in Texas. And I said they're going to take the 2026 elections gently. It's going to be a soft coup in 2026 in the midterms. And then 2028, they're going to try and turn Texas red or blue. Watch.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt that that's probably what their plan is. But again, like, God, man, this stuff is just so it's so silly that we have to spend so much time like talking about the uniparty fighting itself. But yeah, I mean, that's the corruption. So it's mind numbing, man. It really is.
All right, let's hit another sponsor here, and then we will go ahead and jump into our next segment here. Bear with me for 2 seconds. There we go. All right, parents, real talk for a second here. America's about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday. They call it a quarter millennial. 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-government the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, not just fireworks and hot dogs, but the story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This guide sends kids back to the moment when brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well that they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way that kids can understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into boring schoolwork. If you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you'll want to grab. And the best part, it's completely free with this special offer. You just need to pay $2 for shipping and handling. Just head to freeusabirthday.com. Again, that's freeusabirthday.com and get the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure that the next generation knows it. All right. Let's jump into this story here. Okay, I wanted to put that one off. So we'll play this clip here. This is from the Tyler Robinson hearing that took place late last week. I had this up yesterday. We did not get to it. So this is the prosecution right here talking about evidence that nobody has seen yet. Check this out.
He then leaves the campus. UVU surveillance then captures him return later. He returns on foot right before the Charlie Kirk event. He's wearing a disguise of sorts. He's wearing a baseball cap, different baseball cap, pulled low. He's got sunglasses on, a different shirt, different pants, but the same Converse shoes. That's all seen in the surveillance. He's limping because there's a rifle down his pants. The surveillance captures this individual. Again, I don't want to overstate the evidence because the pictures of his face at this time are not as definitive as they were earlier because of the sunglasses and the hat. But it captures his face, captures his appearance, his height, his build, all consistent with how he looks earlier in the day and how he looks today in court. But he makes his way to the rooftop, makes his way to the sniper's perch on the rooftop, takes the shot, and then runs to the northeast, drops off the building and runs to the northeast of campus into a wooded area. That's all captured on video.
Okay. So I know that was a little weak, but the attorney there, the prosecutor, lays out the whole case against him. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because until the actual trial's happening and there's evidence presented that we can see. But now they're starting this kind of narrative in the mainstream. And this has been, Tyler Robinson had to file to remove cameras because they're saying that they're already trying to convict him in the public opinion, the court of public opinion. Now they're saying that they have surveillance of, him walking up to the school, him at the school, changing clothes. By the way, he says he changed his hat, put on sunglasses, changed his shirt, but didn't change his shoes. So that's kind of interesting. He's wearing Converse because nobody else in the world could possibly have Converse. That's the identifiable thing is he's wearing Converse. I mean, I have like 3 pairs of Chucks. So, I think Chucks, over 20% of Americans own Chucks. I actually looked that up. But then they say that they have him up on the sniper perch, taking the shot, and then him running off the building, jumping down and into the woods. And all of this is on surveillance. We've seen everything that he outlined there on surveillance, except him taking the shot. Why have we not seen that yet? If the surveillance that the prosecution has is as extensive as there, or did the guy kind of misspeak and he was just saying, well, we have the surveillance of him running off, but he didn't articulate that very well, and he didn't mean that we have the picture of him taking the shot. But if they have the picture of him taking a shot, you should probably put that out there, because this has everybody kind of freaking out all over the place. Give me 1 second, Ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my opinion on this is this guy is clearly a patsy. To what extent he was involved in any of this stuff is up for debate and should be adjudicated. But my sense is that Charlie was killed for geopolitical reasons related to Israel, the Middle East, and the war in Iran. As we understand it now, Charlie was like the voice in the Trump circle that was highly opposed to the war with Iran and was like, make sure this doesn't happen at all costs, right? And now he's gone, and now his memory is being revised by his friends to say, well, he didn't really mean that. He actually would have supported a war with Iran. It's all pretty sick and perverse.
Yep. All right. So again, I didn't want to spend too much time, but I thought that was something that is worth covering right there. Before we get into the free speech, well, this is kind of moving into the free speech. Wall Street Math puts this out on X right here. These are from BYU at an LGBT table. Quote, a group calling themselves Cougar Pride Center in Provo, Utah, a left-wing organization actively promoting LGBT values at BYU, is hosting an event selling quote-unquote art, including a painting of President Trump's decapitated head on a platter and a piñata of Senator Mike Lee alongside a collection of Molotov cocktails. This is less than 20 minutes from where Charlie Kirk was assassinated in September, not even a year ago, the radical left, blah, blah, blah. So here's the piñata of based Mike Lee. And then we've got the decapitated head, $150 for that piece of crap art. $150. You're out of your mind. I would have probably pulled it out and taken a crap on it. My dog actually just crapped in my studio, so that's why I had to stand up. I should scoop it up and go put it on that picture right there. And then you've got these Molotov cocktails all bedazzled out. I mean, this is just crazy. But here's here's the craziest part. Where's the video? They have video of kids, like young kids, not college kids, young kids, like being encouraged to go swing at this piñata of a sitting U.S. senator. I mean, yeah, okay. If that's how we want to go, that you're doing this on a college campus. Does BYU receive any federal funding? And if they do, yank out of here, promoting political violence like that. And again, I don't care if this is Trump. I don't care if it's Mike Lee. I don't care if it's Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or Hakeem Jeffries. That you don't promote that to children on a college campus if it's receiving federal funding. That is political.
Yeah, well, these are the same people who are like, we need to tone down the rhetoric and we need to bring the temperature down, right? It's like, exactly. Yeah. These people are just they're the worst. They're the worst of the worst.
All right, so this is the story that you've been out in front on this of this, Ghost. You have predicted this. You have called this. You have been the tip of the spear on this right here. Listen to this story here.
It's unfortunate because I'm assuming she's a senior going to graduate soon, and now this is going to jeopardize her ability to graduate.
A 23-year-old FIU student charged with a felony over messages she wrote in a school group chat. Gabriela Saldana facing a judge Thursday morning. According to her arrest report, this went down in a WhatsApp group chat of about 215 students, where students were discussing an event that was to take place Friday at the Ocean Bank Convocation Center on campus to make their capstone presentations. An FIU police officer read some of the statements in court.
The exact words utilized was, there's going to be a bomb in the Ocean Bank Convocation Center, and it's going to be at Jonathan's fault, one of the members in the chat.
7 News obtaining some bits of that chat. It seemed the student wanted the event rescheduled and wrote, quote, "Then Yahoo, if you can hear me, drop some bonbons for us capstone students in Ocean Bank Convention Center." Other students wrote they didn't take that text lightly. She later in the chat wrote, quote, "I wrote a dumb joke that should not have been made."
I can understand your position, Ms. Corey, and you're saying this is a joke, but to an objective person, it's not a joke, and there would be enough for probable cause. I'm not saying it's enough for beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know what the state's going to be able to prove at trial, but for purposes of this hearing, I believe there is enough for probable cause.
All right. So let's go back and unpack this, because there's a lot of things said here And I want to play this part right here.
What's her name? Mindy S. Glazer. Okay,
Mindy,
she should obviously not be a judge, but continue.
Yes. And the whoever signed the arrest affidavit, the arrest warrant should not be a police officer, or and the judge that signed it as well.
The exact words utilized was, "There's going to be a bomb in the Ocean Bank Convocation Center, and it's going to be at Jonathan's fault."
So let's unpack that, because I think there's context missing from this, and I think it's also interesting that the leaked text messages from that chain don't mention those exact words, because I would bet you that if you read the rest of the context, there's a joke to be made there. And I know it is a shitty joke. I will admit that it's a shitty joke. Does not violate infringe on the First Amendment. Right?
It doesn't pass the Brandenburg test, which is a test that was established by the Supreme Court in a Ku Klux Klan case in the 1960s to determine whether or not free speech and like where is the line between free speech and terrorism.
Threats. Right.
Yeah.
And there's certain things, like it has to be an articulated threat, it has to be something that you can actually do. Like you have to have the ability and means and all that stuff.
It has to be specific. It has to be credible. It has to be like timely. Like it can't be like in the distant future. It has to be in the immediate, right?
What this sounds like to me, Ghost, is somebody said something. She thought it was, either stupid or funny or whatever. And she said, "Oh man, there's going to be a bomb at the place, and it's going to be Jonathan's fault for saying what he said." Now, keep in mind, this is in a private WhatsApp group. This is not on Facebook. This is not on X. This is not on Blue Sky, YouTube, whatever. This is
it's not a public statement. It's just in a very large group, 200 plus people, private chat.
And so I think that's the missing context there. But then let's fast forward to what they're actually leaked. Netanyahu, if you can hear me, drop some bonbons for us capstone students in Ocean Bank Convention Center. In no way, shape, or form ever is that a violation of the First Amendment. Is that an arrestable offense? Is that a threat?
Not even close.
100% First Amendment speech. And then even when it expands, it says Netanyahu, if you can hear me, drop something with a B and ends with a B and has an OM in it in Ocean Bank Convention Center. Still not a threat.
Is that second one from her as well?
I think so. It's redacted, so you don't even know who it's from, but they say it's from the student in the thing.
Why would it be redacted if it's from her?
Great question.
It looked like there are avatars next to the like they look like a different avatar, so it looked like a different person said that from her. That one was actually more. I mean, that one is more credible than the one. Bonbons are a dessert. Number one. Number two, like calling on a world figure in a foreign country to like drop a bomb, even if she used the word bomb, drop bombs on us. Like again, like that's just a stupid. Like that's like a stupid, silly, not funny joke. Again, like you said, not a violation of the First Amendment, not the First Amendment, whatever, hate speech violation, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. Not at all.
Brandenburg test, because that girl does not have the capability to influence whether or not Bibi Netanyahu drops a bomb anywhere, let alone in California.
Exactly. But it is Florida. I will remind you that
Florida. Yeah.
When Ron DeSantis signed his ADL anti-Semitism bill, he went over to Israel to sign it.
Yep.
Literally signed it in Israel.
It was a secret meeting. We only know about it because what's his name? Randy Fine posted a picture of it, who at the time was a Florida senator. He posted a picture of it and said, "Secret trip to Florida to sign this." So they did like this closed door press conference to sign it. The press conference aired in Israel, right? Didn't air in America. We only know about it because a picture was taken by Randy Fine and posted to social media.
Yep. So DeSantis goes over, signs a bill against anti-Semitism. You played I think we played the clip here of the woman in Miami that had police come to her door about something or was it a man posted on social media about, anti-Semitism. Again, I don't understand how making fun of Bibi is anti-Semitism, making jokes like that. But that is where we're at right now, where a woman is facing 20 years in prison because of that. Nothing there in a private chat. You have no privacy. And how this got out, whether the students, rolled over and said something, or whether
Somebody
it was anonymous, or whether it was an anonymous tip, because we know that they have access to all of our systems. And I'm talking about Mossad. has access to all of our systems. If you want to pull up the Pegasus and the other stuff there.
Yeah,
Or you can talk about it.
There's a WhatsApp lawsuit against the state of Israel. Let me see. There's a WhatsApp lawsuit against the state of Israel for because they're accusing Israel of, here, if you want to share my screen, leak reveals Israeli government interfered with WhatsApp's lawsuit against spyware company. And so WhatsApp was suing NSO Group. NSO Group is what is the cybersecurity firm in Israel that created Pegasus software. That's the software that they license to every single government in the world that allows them to hack into your phone, turn on your camera, turn on your recording device, like go into like keystroke capture. So they know everything you're doing on your phone and on your devices. It was founded by 2 Mossad agents. It's owned in part by the Israeli government. They have ownership over it. The Israeli government decides who gets access to the licenses. So if you're a foreign intelligence organization that pisses them off, they'll just pull your license and you can't use Pegasus anymore. So that keeps everybody in line, like cooperating with Mossad, because everybody wants access to this thing. And by the way, the lawyer who represented the NSO Group in this lawsuit, Rod Rosenstein. Okay, so everyone needs to understand. I see people, I misspoke. This is not California. This is Florida. And everyone's like, Florida's the most base state. Florida's the most Republican state. Florida's deep red. Everyone should move to Florida. I can't tell you how many people have told me I should move to Florida because I should leave communist Virginia and come move to Florida. Well, who's living in the communist state, actually? It seems like the people in Florida are living in the communist state, because if you make a joke in a private text group, you might be facing 20 years in prison. And this is all about anti-Semitism, Holocaust, like all that bullshit. And it's a Trojan horse. I warned everyone about this 2.5 years ago on this program. I said, this is going to be used. This is being pushed by the Republican Party. Glenn Youngkin in Virginia was the first governor to sign this into law, right? Expanding the definition of anti-Semitism to include the IHRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, which is a fluid definition that they change all the time, they update, which includes criticizing the government of Israel, comparing it to the Third Reich, saying the Jews killed Jesus, which is scripture from the Bible. Saying any of those things is considered anti-Semitic, right? And, it's like what Voltaire said: to know who rules over you, just understand who you can't criticize. Like who can't you criticize? And that's who rules over you. So it's very clear that, and I laid out the whole case on stage with JB during that one panel about how I think Mossad took over the world, and they did it using the Promise software, and Robert Maxwell, being their agent, went around and sold it to all the banks, Credit Suisse being the biggest one, to the weapons manufacturers in the Soviet Union. They got access to everything. That was before they went and sold it to all the intelligence agencies and the law enforcement agencies. But they know everything. They know every bank transaction you do, they know about. Every weapons arms sale that happens to any militant group around the world, they know about. And then every law enforcement investigation, every intelligence operation under place, they know about. Like, that's how they create leverage, and that's how they blackmail every single government in the world, is that. The Epstein thing is cute. That's a fun story, right? That people that, it's very salacious and it's very like intriguing. And maybe I'm sure there's fire where there's smoke. That's that's how they maybe target specific people to control them, is with like the sexual compromat stuff. But that, what I just described and laid out, that was done in 1984, 1985. That's how they gain leverage, generally speaking, over like entire systems and over entire governments. So yeah, it's no surprise that this is happening to me. I think that this is going to escalate. I think this is going to get much worse. I expect this to become reach a fever pitch at some point. Because honestly, that's the only way people are going to wake up to this. I mean, people are still groveling at the feet of not only a government, but a foreign government, and acting like anything that government does is sanctioned by God. It's very perverse. It's very collectivist. It's very communist. And people should just stop doing it immediately.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw this, but the IDF has now responded to this image here in Lebanon, the Jesus smashing of the statue.
Oh yeah, they put out a statement. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they put out a statement releasing their investigation. So this is the story. This was in Lebanon, an Israeli soldier smashing the face of Jesus after they knocked him off the cross. All right. And then the statement that the IDF has put out is right here. Findings and conclusions. The inquiry found that during IDF activity in the area of the Christian village of Debel in southern Lebanon, an IDF soldier damaged a Christian religious symbol while another one photographed the act. 6 additional soldiers were present at the scene and did not act to stop the incident or report it. The inquiry determined that the soldier's conduct completely deviated from IDF orders and values. Sure it did. The IDF expresses deep regret over the incident and emphasizes that its operations in Lebanon are directed solely against the Hezbollah terrorist organization and other terrorist groups and not against Lebanese civilians. Accordingly, it was determined that the soldiers who damaged the Christian symbol and the soldier who photographed the act will be removed from combat duty and will receive 30 days of military detention. The remaining troops who stood by have been summoned for clarification discussions that will be held later on, after which further command level measures will be determined. So there we have some resolution there.
Yeah, and that's like none of that's going to happen. I guarantee it. There's a video that's making the rounds right now. This is actually from like 2 years ago, but if you want to pull my screen up, this is from the village of Yaroun in South Lebanon, where a guy driving a tank, this is an IDF soldier driving it's either a tank or a bulldozer, it's some sort of like armored vehicle, knocks over the statue of St. George, destroys the statue. This is a Christian monument in a Christian village in Lebanon 2 years ago. I think this is when this happened, I believe. And the IDF claimed that they were going to expel this guy and like he was going to be in trouble. And my understanding is he did not get in trouble. He's actually still active duty serving in Lebanon. It is a bulldozer, it looks like. So this happens all the time, by the way. Yeah. Like remember when they accidentally shot tank shells through a church in the West Bank, right? They bombed the same church in Gaza like 3 different times. And they're like, oops, sorry, our bad, with Christians like huddling inside of it, hiding inside of it. They killed that bishop like a month ago in Lebanon. They do this stuff all the time, and they're like, oops, our bad. I mean, that guy, that image, I said this the other day, I said this last night on Ash's show, Culture Change. I think that image of which clearly was staged. I mean, the guy took a sledgehammer, they knocked down the crucifix of Jesus, and then the guy clearly laid the sledgehammer on his face, of the face of the statue, and then had his buddy take a picture of him, right? That was all staged. I think that picture is going to live in infamy. I think that's going to be like a picture like from World War II. We look at like the guy like kissing the girl on Victory Day. It's going to be like that. Like this is going to be an image that I think 100 years from now people are going to look at and say that embodies what the modern state of Israel, Talmudic Judaism, and the greater Israel empire represented was the destruction of Christianity in an attack on Christianity, which is very clear what the Netanyahu government wants. And as I explained on Ash's show, and I've explained before, the people that Netanyahu has been forced to turn to and rely on in order to gain the political support to stay in power, that's what's fueling all this, because they are disciples of a guy named Meir Kahane, who served in the Knesset in the 80s. And as a result, a law of his service, a law was passed to ban all of his followers basically from ever serving in government because they were Jewish supremacists, where they literally said Christians are the ancient enemy of Jews. They should all be expelled from Israel. Every church should be burned to the ground. And his disciples were banned from the Knesset for that. You can't have these beliefs. Netanyahu reversed that ban in 2022. He put a caveat that said, if this belief system is tied to religion and your spiritual values and not your political platform, that's okay. You can then say that stuff publicly. And so Itamar Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, Israel Katz, just to name 3 of them. That's the finance minister, the national security minister, the finance minister, and the defense minister. They are all Kahanists. All of them are disciples of Kahane. Meir Kahane's second in command is Lieutenant Benzi Gopstein, who was arrested in 2015 for literally saying we should burn every church in Israel and expel all Christians. He was arrested for incitement. When he went to court in 2020, his defense attorney was Itamar Ben-Gvir, the current national security minister of Israel. So, like, this is not a conspiracy theory. They're very open about this. They love this guy, Meir Kahane, and he was a Jewish terrorist who specifically identified Christians as the ancient enemy of Israel. So, yeah, like, that's where we are. That's what this is ultimately all about. And I just think we have to have like a sober conversation about all this.
Yep. All right. Before I hand it over to you fully here for the last segment, let's go ahead and hit our final sponsor of the program. And then I want to talk a little bit about that story with Spain here and our dear friend, Maria Hakuna Matata. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about our friends over at Emerald Med. I want to share with you a story about a farming family supporting this channel. 8 years ago, their brother returned from Afghanistan with significant injuries and lost his ability to function. We can't share the exact story because of FDA restrictions, but friends kept suggesting CBD. So they tried dozens of CBD products, but nothing helped. Out of frustration, they began to create their own. They started making it to help friends and family have CBD that they knew was as clean and powerful as possible. The doctors started asking to carry it, and it took off from there. Now they speak at medical conventions and help others across the United States. While most companies have 1 to 10 compounds in CBD oil, their oil has up to 50. They have 8 things that make their products different. They make balms, gummies, pet products, etc. They're called Emerald Med. You should check these guys out. If you get their CBD and you don't notice a big difference, they'll actually provide a refund. If you want support a business that supports our channel and free speech with marketing dollars, and if you need a source for CBD that's real, they're running a special right now because it's their company's anniversary. You can click the link below to try Emerald Med at 40% off. Get extreme muscle and joint relief, significant inflammation and circulation support, and quality sleep, even daytime calm. They're worth a try at least once. Just click the link below and use the code for 40% off up to 2 items today. And I've used their other products as well. Ace Manon, they sent me a nice little letter when I ordered the Aloe RX. Fantastic stuff. All right, let's jump into this story here. So I reposted this morning, and I would not repost it because this does not deserve a share. I'm not going to help this grifter grift on this story. Venezuela opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, a.k.a. Maria Hakuna Matata, walked out to a sea of thousands of supporters in Madrid. Machado had dedicated her Nobel Peace Prize to President Trump. She is refusing to meet with Spain's leftist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez right now, instead meeting with the right-wing opposition. Right-wingers must rise up across Europe and Latin America. So then you jump over to the story here from the AP. Venezuela's Machado draws a huge crowd in Spain. You can literally see Ghost. You can see the narrative trying to drum up support in America for this woman to, kind of push Trump in that direction. I think perhaps, I don't think he's going to take the bait on that. I think we're pretty set that Delsey's his guy or his girl, so to speak there. The AP writes, Venezuela's exiled opposition leader Maria Corina Machado drew several thousand supporters Saturday to a rally in Madrid where the Nobel laureate declined a meeting with Spain's progressive Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez on a multi-country European tour. Sanchez, an outspoken critic of U.S. President Donald Trump, was hosting a summit of like-minded progressive leaders from around the world on Saturday, while Machado extolled Trump's ouster of Nicolas Maduro in January. Machado insisted at an earlier event that she will be returning to Venezuela, but declined to say when or how, and acknowledged the challenges implicit in a return to her country. Her multi-stop European tour, during which she met with the leaders of France, Italy, and the Netherlands, comes while Venezuela interim president Delcy Rodriguez has continued in her temporary role, exceeding its initial 90-day limit, while the U.S. government had lifted some sanctions against her country. Machado criticized Rodriguez's government, saying it represented, quote, chaos, violence, and terror, end quote, and reiterated her belief in the need for democratic elections in Venezuela. Machado added that she did not regret presenting Trump, whose administration has largely sidelined the crusader for democracy, with her Nobel Prize. They are literally laying the foundation to try and say, Trump, you need this woman. You need this woman. Go ahead.
Yeah, share my screen. So I just went to X and all I typed in was Machado huge crowd. That's all I typed in. Look at the posts. All right. Holy crap, 350,000 people have gathered in Madrid for the pro-Trump Venezuela opposition leader Machado. Take back your country. Next post. Holy crap, 350,000 people have gathered in Madrid for the pro-Trump Venezuela opposition leader Machado. Take back your country. Next post. Holy shit, more than 350. I mean, this goes on and on and on and on.
My God.
It's the exact same post over and over and over and over and over again. Look how many there are. Look at this. It's literally the exact same language. Holy crap. Holy shit. Oh my God.
Wow. Shit. Holy fucking shit. They added a word.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, go find your favorite MAGA influencer, right? And I guarantee you they've made this exact post. Guarantee. I've already made a list of some of the people that I've noticed. Some of your favorite MAGA influencers who are super base and red pilled and appear on stage with your favorite television characters all the time have made this exact same post using the exact same language. This is an op that's being run by the CIA, and this is being run against President Trump because President Trump subverted this entire thing by quote unquote kidnapping Nicolas Maduro and making peace with Delcy Rodriguez and calling Venezuela our greatest ally now. And now these people are saying this is not enough. We need to install Machado as the leader of Venezuela. And the point of doing this, in my opinion, is because Machado is going to cut a deal with all the oil companies to give them all the oil back, so that they can continue exploiting the Venezuelan people, which they were doing 30 years ago before Hugo Chavez came into power. So that's what I think this whole thing is about. I think it's all about getting rid of the Hugo Chavez government, which Nicolas Maduro and Delcy Rodriguez are a continuation of, because George Bush's friends at ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips have lost billions of dollars because they were unwilling to cut a deal with Hugo Chavez and, cut the Venezuelan people in on the natural resource that's underneath their feet and, technically should belong to them and their country.
Wow, that is absolutely nuts, man. Great find there, dude. All right, the floor is yours, man.
Okay, so let's go to, so now that we've got rid of that, let's look at, okay, so I just saw this. This is a story that's interesting that maybe we should just look at real quick. It's not like a major thing. By the way, since we already did the Jesus statue, the crucifix, that's a town called Debel, in South Lebanon. They made a post. They posted a picture of the original statue before it was destroyed, and quoted, I think it's Luke 23, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." That is a 99% Catholic village. All the people have been forced out of their homes. They've all been forced to leave by the IDF. They're not allowed to come back, despite the fact that there's a ceasefire technically in place. I think it's been violated, but technically in place between the IDF and Israel. And they're saying that, that this is going to become part of a security buffer, kind of like a DMZ. And so here's that story. And here's the map that the IDF has released. Everything in the red. This is more territory, by the way. This is more acreage, as I understand it, than what Russia is taking from Ukraine. That's at least what is out there. I haven't done the measurement myself. I've seen that allegation made. And so many of these towns in the red here are actually Christian villages. They're all being forced out. They're saying you can't come back. They're going to convert all of these areas into Israeli settlements, right? And the Israeli settlers are the most radical facet of Israeli society. So these are the people who are the Meir Kahane people. Like, these are the people who have Jewish supremacist values, who think that Christians and Muslims and anyone who's not Jewish should not live around them and should be expelled, which is why this is happening. And so, yeah, this is like Christian villages, Christian people are being targeted by this specifically. I think it's important to understand that. And there's another facet to this as well. If you go to the Badlands news brief and you read it yesterday, you would have picked up on this. Let's see. So I put that map in the news brief yesterday. And so my like, you might recall last week I said that I thought that they were focusing on this territory down here south of the Litani River, but I said I think they're going to move northeast toward Mount Hermon, and they're going to take Mount Hermon. And that appears what they're doing now is they're taking Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is 2,700 meters, which means it's like 9,300 square feet. It's the highest point basically on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean. This entire area from Egypt, from Sinai up to Turkey, it's the highest point in this region. Very strategic. It obviously overlooks Damascus, as you can see here. It overlooks, Beirut is not much further north. If you control Mount Hermon, that gives you a major strategic position in terms of like from a military standpoint. And so I think that's what the IDF is trying to do, is they're trying to capture Mount Hermon, which will give them like a strong base of operations, I think, to conquer and annex this entire area, southern Lebanon and southern Syria. So that's what I think the play is. The other facet of this, though, is this. There's something called this red territory. They're calling it the forward defense zone. All right. But there has been this lawfare campaign by Israel for a while now over the maritime boundary. And similar to what we see in Venezuela with Guyana, they're claiming that this gas field, the Cana gas field, I'm pretty sure, it's a gas field, that belongs to them. They've had numerous court cases about this, and the courts all determined, no, this actually under international law belongs to Lebanon. The majority of it, 75% of it belongs to Lebanon. It's theirs. So now what Israel has already put out, they've already argued that because they've established this forward defense zone, they're going to move the exclusionary boundary here, and the entire gas field is now going to become theirs. So there's a financial, natural resource element to this. It's not just about conquering territory and building empire. I mean, this is conquering territory and building empire, but there's a natural resource that they're after here, and that's gas. And they're taking that obviously from Lebanon. So yeah, this is going to continue. We had the Antalya diplomatic forum late last week in Turkey. There is a meeting there between these guys on stage. This is Egypt, Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. And those names should all stick out in your mind because weeks ago I put the map together because we started getting these bilateral security agreements between Turkey and Egypt, Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. And I think Pakistan and Egypt were talking as well. And what I laid out was, if you look at the map, this is the security architecture of the Middle East. If you go read the book, The Revenge of Geography, which General Quast always recommends, in the chapter on the Middle East, what Robert Kagan argues is he says that the reason that the Middle East, one of the reasons, I mean, there's the intelligence, East India Company aspect, but the reason that they weren't able to develop nation states, the same way Europe and other continents were, is because they had no natural boundaries to the region, right? That like the geography of it didn't lend itself to building up empire. The only place, by the way, that does have those mountainous borders is Iran. If you look at Iran, it's totally surrounded on all sides by mountains. And that's the reason that culture has sustained itself continuously for 6,000 years. It's changed management, of course, over the years, but the culture and the society itself is always as maintained. And that's what makes it unique among the entire region, is that it's the only culture there that has continuously existed for 6,000 years. But these four guys represent the security architecture, because I think you have Turkey being the doorway from the Middle East to Europe. You have Egypt being the doorway from the Middle East to Africa. And you have Pakistan being the doorway from the Middle East to Asia through the Indus River Valley into India. So those represent the three different, walls, so to speak, that block the Middle East from the outside world. And then Saudi Arabia is the linchpin, I think, that brings it all together. I think these guys together are going to ultimately impose themselves on the IDF. I think Turkey specifically, but Egypt will back it, and Pakistan will back it, and Saudi will back it, and then Iraq will back it. And of course, Iran is already fighting them. So I think you're going to see something come together where all of these different countries that have fought each other for generations, centuries, these cultures are going to have come together in a moment of common enemy, common ground, to stop this empire that is expanding itself and intends to take all their land. And that hopefully that process will sustain itself. So once it's over, they can find they can coexist, and they can make a region that is similar to Europe, similar to what we have here in the Western Hemisphere, where they can live in relative peace and they don't have to have constant conflict, and they can have the golden age. But I do think the IDF and the Jewish Empire, the Greater Israel Project, is going to be the catalyst that I think brings all these different civilizations together. So let's go. I just the story that I mentioned earlier that I wanted to mention was this one. This is interesting. Mossad agent Mim, who died in 2023, contributed to Iran war success, spy chief reveals. This is David Barnea. Says Mossad agent who died in an apparent boat accident in Italy in May 2023 led operations that contributed to Israel's recent successes against Iran. Spy chief David Barnea said Tuesday the agent, identifiable only by the first Hebrew letter of his name, Mim, was among 4 people who drowned when a boat capsized in Italy's Lake Maggiore. I think I'm saying that right. At the time, he was named by Italian media as 50-year-old Erez Shimoni, which is believed to be an alias. His real identity was not officially publicized, but is publicly available on official Israeli memorial sites. What's interesting about this is I remember covering a story. I went and pulled the story from back then. You may recall that back in late October 30th, November 1st, there was a blackmail spying ring that was arrested, that the Italian authorities arrested. And basically what was happening is that former Italian intelligence operators who started their own private intelligence firm were working with Mossad to hack into Israel's servers, and they were trying to steal information about Russia, about Putin's inner circle, about the Wagner Group, and about specifically Giorgia Meloni and her bank records, her private communications, all that stuff. And they were going to use it to blackmail Meloni. They were going to use it to blackmail Putin, to blackmail the people in his inner circle, and to take down the Wagner Group. That's what the purpose of that operation allegedly was. I found this article that detailing that. This is from this is November 7th, 2024 from the European Times. Listen to this. It says, think the Italian job, but instead of gold bars, it's confidential data from some of Italy's most figures, reported Politico from Rome and Brussels. And I just did a quick search down here. Nunzio Samuele Calamucci, 44, hails from Belote, a town near Milan, known by his codename Sim. He is alleged to have been a member of the anonymous hacker collective for Equalize. That's the name of the private intelligence firm. He reportedly coordinated and directed all criminal operations. So here's a guy who, 2 years ago was named, his codename was Sim, right? He was involved in this whole situation. And then apparently this boat capsizes, right? Here's the story there. Israel retired Mossad agent, still devoted to the state security, died on a capsized boat. This is May 31st, 2023. So Prime Minister office says impossible to elaborate on dedicated service of Erez Shimoni, who is one of the 4 people who drowned on Italy's Lake Maggiore. Body returned to Israel. Okay. What's interesting is that group Equalized, and those people, so I think it was 4 Mossad agents were arrested, and then all these former Italian intelligence guys were arrested by Italian authorities. They were all arrested in Milan. That's where they were operating out of. Well, let's go to the map. Here is Lake Maggiore in Italy, right? There's Milan. So I don't know, I just pieced this all together, right before we went live. So I don't know, I got to dig into this a little deeper, but I think this is all connected. I think all of this is definitely connected to, Mossad and these former Italian intelligence officials. You may recall, you may have seen last week that, they're targeting Meloni, obviously, with his operation. And then fast forward, here is, this is from April 14th. EU country suspends defense agreement with Israel. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has announced the suspension of a defense agreement with Israel amid tensions over the war in the Middle East. Italy, whose right-wing government had been seen as one of Israel's closest allies in the EU, has become increasingly critical of the ongoing military campaign in Lebanon, where 2,124 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes since early March. Speaking on Tuesday in Verona, Meloni said her government had decided to suspend the automatic renewal of the agreement in light of the current situation. When there are things we don't agree with, we act accordingly, Meloni said, according to Reuters. The agreement ratified in 2005 had previously renewed every 5 years, includes cooperation in the defense industry and procurement process, military equipment, imports and exports, technical data exchanges, and personnel training. Yeah, so I think, again, this is a continuation of that. Meloni and Trump kind of had their little public spat where she was like, I don't like what Trump's doing. Trump's like, well, Meloni doesn't know what she's talking about. I think that's all kayfabe. I think Meloni is definitely our girl. She's definitely Trump's operative. I think this is all part of a coordinated operation against Israel to kind of isolate it, alienate it from the international community. And a continuation of that, I actually think, is this Magyar guy.
Yes, we had that clip. He said he'd arrest Netanyahu.
Yeah. So Magyar, there's this writer, this girl, Lesia Dubinko. She is a blogger. I mean, she's a writer for the Times of Israel. But if you go down to her About Me, so her most recent article is, yes, Russia hates Israelis. But if you go and read about her, Lesia Dubinko is a Kiev-born journalist and analyst, previously featured on the Financial Times, Politico Europe, Washington Times, New Eastern Europe, and Kiev Post, with a degree in European affairs from Lund University, that's in Ukraine. Her work focuses on the Russo-Ukraine war, global politics, propaganda, and more. If you go look at her most recent articles, her 5 most recent articles, yes, Russia hates Israelis, just accept it. Ukraine's grain is Ukraine's. Israel can fix it. With Ukraine, Israel can do much, much better. The Kremlin's influencer army turns on Israel. Those are her last, 4 articles from the past 2 weeks, month maybe.
Did you see, where did it go? The Atlantic. Did you see their article about Ukraine?
No. What did the Atlantic say?
Hold on. Here it is. Hold on. Ukraine has finally given up on Trump.
There you go.
They say for more than a year after Donald Trump returned to the White House, Ukraine held out hope, at least publicly, of winning him over. Trump revealed his affection for Russia's Vladimir Putin again and again, largely halted American military aid to Kyiv. He insulted Ukrainian leaders regularly, personally berating Zelensky in the Oval Office in February 2025. Nevertheless, Ukraine diligently took part in Trump's peace negotiations, which were tilted to reward Putin's invasion and turned out to be fruitless. So you're seeing seeing Meloni turn on Israel. Well, not turn on Israel, but, go back on that deal. Magyar saying that he would arrest Netanyahu if he came to Hungary for their 1953 revolution celebration, and everything else is kind of coming to fruition. But we got to land there. Ghost, go ahead.
Well, the savage part about Magyar is that he called up Netanyahu and invited them to Hungary, and then he said, "Oh, by the way, if you come, I'm going to arrest you." I think that's a pretty savage move. Yeah, I know we got to land it. The last thing I would just say is that, I mean, I'll cover a lot more of this in depth. There's an EU scandal that is, I think, connected to everything that you just laid out. Yep. And then also Russia just detained 40 Israelis on suspicion that they were like Mossad that landed at the Moscow airport. They released them, but they detained them. And that's why she posted that article that said, yes, Russia hates Israel.
Shocker. All right, guys, have you guys tried All Good by our very own Jessica Storm yet? All Good makes premium self-care products using clean, organic ingredients that actually work, powered by grass-fed finished tallow, rich in vitamins A, D, E, and K, plus cold-pressed organic oils that your skin loves. And with spring here, it's time to get outside. All Good's tallow sunscreen uses non-nano zinc oxide with a blend of nourishing oils to protect your skin without the junk. And for keeping biting pests away, the all-natural Bug Out Balm has you covered. Both are now available in stick form for easy application. Mother's Day is May 10th. It's coming up, guys. All Good has you covered with ready-to-go gift bundles. For every vibe and every budget, you can give mom something that she'll actually use and love. Head over to badlandsmedia.tv/allgood and use promo code Badlands to save on your entire order. Again, that's badlandsmedia.tv/allgood and use promo code Badlands. All right. Our very own Jessica Storm lingering in the chat, helping us out on the back end as well.
Very nice.
Let's jump into some rumble rants here, and then I got a skedaddle. I'm going to be doing an interview here with Heather Mullins at 12:30, so I got to get ready for that.
Nice.
Heather Jones, just a little love for y'all. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Bread Hour, the French using the word good twice to refer to candy is so based. No wonder the Uniparty ran nonstop anti-French propaganda in the Bush era. That's referring to the bonbons comment. And then Huck Fillery, a couple pledged Huck bucks. It looks like I've successfully reprogrammed CannCon's brain. 0%. Mwahahaha. Go ahead, CannCon. Say the thing. Also, may God protect oppressed Christians everywhere. 100%. There you go.
Yes. Amen.
All right. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. It's Tuesday, so I got Daily Herald coming out at 1, and John got some declassified documents, so he's going to be all giddy like a schoolgirl here.
Really?
Yeah, on the election. I'm actually going to read them. I was checking the chat, or not the chat. I glanced at it on X, and I saw it, so I got to read that report before I do the interview here. So John will go over it more at 1, and then you've got a Geopolitics with Ghost today, right?
Yep, 2 o'clock Eastern.
All right. And then Ash and I have Badlands Book Club at 6 p.m. And we will be getting close to wrapping up stolen elections. And yeah, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. And we'll see you guys when we see you, hopefully tomorrow morning. Smash that thumbs up on your way out.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.